The issue with painting Feirros first. So this is part of an army commission that I'll be doing. Yeah, that's dark brown. Is that however how I paint this guy is going to basically establish a color scheme for the entire army. So like the blue green that I used for this lens, I'll use for OSL on like plasma guns and stuff. The red hoses I'll carry throughout. So whatever I paint this pouch is what I'm going to paint all the intercessor pouches, all the reaver pouches, all just pouches are going to be painted similarly. So, but I think I do want to do a kind of dark brown leather. So let's do that. I think that'll be good. I don't think I'm going to do the whole... Yeah, fuck it. We'll do the whole leather thing. So, again, from my friends at Scale 75, we get their leather set. So black leather, brown leather, orange leather, which is a great color. Not sandalwood. Iroko and birch, as well as the thing that ties it all together, Inktense Black. So these 5 paints come in Scale Colors wood and leather set, and then Inktense Black. And this is when you really want a worn chocolate brown leather, old, cracked, worn chocolate brown leather. This is what I use. And this is one of those days I wish I had a palette can. But it is not this day. Soon though. We're in month 2. Survived month 1, we're in month 2. Yeah, this will work. I'll try and get the palette on camera a little bit. So this is going to make more work for me down the road when I'm doing like, intercessors and stuff, but this leather just looks so good that I'm just going to eat it. So what we're going to do first, let's get this palette. This is the painter's palette from Red Grass Games. Red Grass. No, I'm not. I don't have a paid sponsorship or anything yet. This is just a great palette. This is the best wet palette I've ever used. So we're just going to line this up because we're going to mix basically from start to finish. We're going to mix the whole spectrum, all these colors. So black leather, as you can see, is basically purple. And there's a little medium. That's okay. Brown leather. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix the black leather and the brown leather for the base coat, and then we're just going to keep mixing to the right as we do our highlights. Orange leather. Iroko, which is just fun to say. I-R-O-K-O. Iroko. And birch. Birch is basically ivory for the most part. So this is the best leather that I know how to do. And then we're going to do a glaze of Inktense Black at the back, and that'll set everything off. You'll see. So I also want to grab a brush. like one of my busted brushes that I can splay out to get texture. So like, ooh, that brush is actually not bad. I hit all my brushes. I like soaked all my brushes in Vallejo brush restorer like over the weekend because I was sick and I wasn't painting. That stuff works. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that stuff really works. Because these brushes, there we go. You see how like that, I can flatten this brush out. You see how it separates? And I get those little clusters. That's exactly what I want to do leather. I don't want a sharp brush to do leather, personally. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix a little bit of that brown and black leather to get a kind of chocolate brown. I'm going to have to move the palette. Sorry. So that gives us a nice chocolate brown. And then we're just going to base coat the pouch. Oh yeah, this is a good brush. This brush is destroyed. This thing wouldn't hold a tip if I paid it. I glued the ends together. This is going to be great. This is a perfect brush for this. Set it. So all around base coat. Careful around the armor. And then we're going to check the temperature on that. So let's see. I have concerns. About the brown leather. So I did that brown leather and I'm balking a little because of how much that stands out from the rest of the model. What did I do on the test model? I think I did black leather on my test model. And this is something I do all the time. I just try not to do it when I'm on Twitch because it's not really very compelling television. But not very compelling content to watch me look at my phone. But my memory stinks in general. So yeah, this guy has to have black. Of course, now I can't find pictures of anything. Come on. Yeah, whatever. I always look back. I'll look at reference images. I'll look at. Okay, but this thing is going to be. No, we're good. Okay. Real quick. So this is that P3 Bloodstone that I was raving about. That's going to be the color, the main color for the axe handle, the base color for the axe handle. Pro tip, don't drop your paint color into where you already have metallics on your palette. It's not going to end well. Hey, thanks, Arnaud. Appreciate it, bud. Good morning. Morning, right? So this is going to be a shade darker. This is going to be darker than this, but I'm just putting that down to see it with the rest of the model. It's going to be darker. It's not going to stand out that much. But see, now we have that warm trifecta there. And it doesn't look weird. And then now this kind of gives us, that pouch kind of gives us another one here. Then if we turn it again, So I think that's going to work. So let's keep going. And if it doesn't work, we'll just paint it black. So, we won't have lost anything. But sometimes it's good to just sketch out a color like that. Just sketch it out and look at it as a whole and see how it looks. Even if it's not what you're working on right now, just see how this piece over here is influenced by other elements that you haven't painted yet. Just sketch it. We're going to go back over that and base coat it and wash it and do all that stuff anyway. So just sketch it, just see how it looks, just do it like a heat check. And then if it doesn't work, then you at least know. What you don't want to have happen is you spend 15 minutes painting this thing, then you go and paint the axe handle and you're like, oh, that doesn't look right because of the handle or whatever. So if you're questioning it, if you're like, yeah, I'm not so sure, just do a quick sketch of the other colors you're going to be using, and that way you can kind of see the whole thing, and you know that. So like when you're looking straight on, so like this isn't. What's interesting about where this is positioned is this red lens up here, this warm red lens up here, kind of disappears by when you turn it to incorporate the pouch. By the time you turn this and see the pouch, that lens disappears and you have a new triangle of interest here. So that actually worked in our favor. And then when you look at it straight on and you can see the lens, the axe handle is blocking the pouch. So I think the sculpt did us a solid on this one. So now we're going to go back to working on leather. So this is the mix of the brown leather and the black leather. And what we're going to do is we're just going to mix in this orange leather and lighten it up just a little bit. But you see how that like totally changed the tone of that mix. And then we're going to flatten out this brush. This is a brush that has already past its useful life as a detail brush. But you can see, with a piece of paper, it's going to be really bright, and I apologize. But you can see how that's giving us texture by flattening this busted brush out. Paint's too thick. Hang on. By flattening this busted brush out, come on. This was such a great demonstration up until a second ago. There we go. You can see it's getting those little lines. And that's what we want for this leather. We want that texture. It's the same way that we highlighted this steel in the earlier stream. And this is on paper, so it's like absorbing and flattening out, but those are actually, pretty fine lines, which you'll see in the leather. So we pick up that mix of the orange leather and the brown leather, and then we're going to go around the edges of this pouch and just tap very gently. This is not going to, whoops, try not to drop the model while you're working on it, but it'll have, sorry, this lamp is driving me crazy. There we go. So, and what we're doing here is we're just establishing some texture because we want this to look worn. We want this to look weathered. His armor looks a little weathered. We did that sponge chipping on his armor. But even if I were painting, like when I painted the Custodes, I did the Custodian Guard tutorial. So now we're going to mix in a little bit more orange leather. Custodian Guard have really baroque, really intricate. Now we're going to mix in a little bit of that Iroko. So now this is a mix of like all four. This is because we went from the black and the brown, then we mixed in the orange, now we mixed in the Iroko. So we're lightening it, but we're also adding different tones to it. So we're going to flatten out that brush. and just tap, tap, tap. So like Custodian Guard, you know, they're sitting around polishing their armor in the palace for thousands of years. But and so so the armor is not weathered. It's very polished and pristine. But I doubt very much that they replace their leather elements every time they go to polish their armor because they're worn in. They're probably formed to their body, so they're not. Is that starting to show up? Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, we were just sketching. We were just sketching. Like I didn't paint the underside of the back of the handle either. But so you can see that texture with those little lines, that texture starting to show up. That's exactly what we want. So I don't think that the Custodian Guard would replace that leather every time. So even though when I painted their armor, I did it really clean. You know, I painted their leather. I did like a red leather for them, but I painted it in a worn, maybe just a little, just in the middle there. I painted it in a worn way because I figured they wouldn't change that out, right? They wouldn't do it every single time. So now I'm going to take just a little bit of that burst. This is going to lighten it up a lot. A palette cam, my kingdom for a palette cam. So this is going to be like light. So we don't want to go. The important thing is we don't want to cover everything every time we do a highlight. Like we don't want to cover all the areas that we did the previous highlight. We want to leave a little. With doing leather and with doing really any natural element, variation and the variance is your friend. Variance is natural. Variance is gives you a more natural result than if something looks really, really uniform. Very little. There's not going to be a natural, you know, very linear, ordered cracking to worn leather. You know, it's not going to happen. So taking some of that original mix with the black and the brown, now we're going to go back and just hit a couple little areas. So the more kind of variation you can have. So that's looking pretty good. We have nice texture on that. You can see it looks worn, it looks cracked, it looks distressed, I think is the official term for that. Distressed leather. Maybe that's just in fashion. Watch this. This is the coolest part of this whole leather deal. So now I'm going to take this Inktense Black. I'm going to hype this, so I hope it works, because I'm really going to hype this. This is the coolest thing. This is absolutely hands down the coolest part. So I'm going to take this black, this watered down, let me check it. Yeah, we're good. Watered down Inktense Black, and I'm going to go over the leather. I want to go up here because I want it to catch underneath there. Boom. We'll let that dry. We might do another quick pass because that was pretty thin. You want this to be thin, especially if you're using Inktense Black. This stuff is like 1/2 a drop will last quite some time. Years, probably. Or a bottle will last like years. I paint a lot of leather, and I've never needed another bottle of Inktense Black, and I've had this bottle for like 3 years, at least. So another reason I wanted to do the dark brown leather. This is just super fun. I just love doing this leather. It's just, look at that. Yeah. That looks awesome. No, yeah, I'm super happy with that. That was a good decision. Because it'll be a nice contrast too, because we'll go through and we'll matte varnish, or excuse me, we'll satin varnish the model when we're done painting it to give that luster back to the armor. And then we'll go back and we'll matte varnish like that leather holster, the bolter casing, all the elements that would be matte. We're going to go back and matte varnish. So that provides a really nice contrast to the satin of the armor. And when that dries, see that black wash just made it old. Like the black wash just made it old. And cracked and distressed and tired. Imagine how tired this guy is just carrying this stuff around all day.